Hey guys, MC Fix It here. We're going to be working on this old sill that is a threshold in swing that is just rotten. You can see the rot, the wood rot in it, and we're going to replace it with a new one that has the metal on it as well. And so watch this video, you see how to do that. You'll get the tools and all the know-how to be able to get the project done. Here are the supplies that you're going to need for this video. You are going to want an adjustable threshold sill type. Make sure it's the correct measurement. They do have a few different ones, and it also shows the amount of adjustment this has. It is made out of aluminum and hardwood. They do make some that are out of composite as well. The composite ones are a bit more expensive. So that's the first thing you need. Then the tools that you're going to need for this project are quite a few, but there's lots of variations you can do. One of the things you're going to need is some kind of saw, so you can use one of these or a Sawzall, so you have the multi-tool option, or Sawzall. Sawzall, you want to be careful if you're doing it into like some kind of wood. If it's not concrete, you can really tear up concrete with a Sawzall if you don't have your angles right. You are going to want a hammer drill, because I do like to anchor these in. In the instructions, it tells you really you don't have to anchor it in. Anchor it in, make sure it's right. Get some blue tape, make sure your anchor is the correct depth as well. Tape measure is really important, because you do have to measure a lot of different times. A long flathead, a regular size flathead, and a Phillips screwdriver. You may want safety glasses and gloves just to make sure you keep yourself safe. You will need a hammer as well. You may need some kind of scraping depending on what your previous sill is, some kind of scraper tool, putty knife, because sometimes it is filled with glue, and so you will want that, or at least caulk. If you have bad knees, get a knee pad, it will help. Shop towels, and you will also need some kind of silicone. I like the all-purpose latex silicone caulk. Then a broom to kind of sweep up afterwards, or some kind of shot vac. If you do have to make any adjustment cuts, you will want a Sharpie so you can draw easily on that sill. So there's a few different ways you can get started on this project. One thing is to remove all of these screws out the top. The other thing you could do is just go ahead and use your multi-tool or Sawzall and just cut it in half, and then we'll be able to pull it out. So now that this is cut directly in half, we can go ahead and start lifting it up and out. Now there are going to be a few screws underneath, so you will want to kind of pry this, and you probably will end up kind of breaking the old, but that is okay. And so it is underneath this. A lot of times they will put nails either going into the top of it or through the side of it. And if you wiggle it out, you normally can get away with it just like that. And this one did, I didn't know this, but this one does have this little piece here, which is really helpful to keep it locked into place. And you can see the wood has just deteriorated on this piece. And so we will have to make one more cut across here, because this does have this plastic piece. I was a little uncertain until you kind of jump in and do it. Each of these are a little different, but if you wiggle this back and forth, you should be able to get it out as well. So we have one more piece we're going to have to cut. It's this plastic insert piece. Okay, so you're going to go kind of continue to do the same thing. Go ahead and start prying this up. Sometimes they glue these, which it sounds like that's what they're doing here. And sometimes they will actually screw them down. So it just depends what the builder or whoever messed with this last did. And again, you can kind of pull that up. Same thing with over here. You're just going to kind of get underneath it and begin to pull it up. Again, depending on how much glue they did, does make this easier or harder. This one has been known to leak in the past underneath, and even leak into the garage, even though there's about a 4-inch gap there. So again, you're just kind of going down underneath. You can also use some kind of like crowbar if that's helpful for you as well. Just take your time, get it all out. And then make sure you set all your stuff to the side so you're not kind of sitting in it. And then we're gonna just kind of take this and just get as much of it off as we can. You could also use some kind of putty knife as well, which is probably what we'll end up doing just to clean it up. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you will want it nice so that new glue has good surface to have adhesion to. I'm actually not shocked that they didn't have any kind of screws, because this house is not built the best, I'll be honest. Been living in it for about 7 years now, and you can also sweep it out, or if you have some kind of blower, you can blow it out as well, and that will get your surface nice and prepped for what we will do next. So you're gonna go ahead and measure the distance from underneath, and so you can take your tape measure and you can kind of block it off and get a good measurement, which is 32, looks like just about 32 and a half. And so this is 36 inches from start to finish. And so if you look, it will be too long on the end. So we will have to cut it, but we do want to make sure that is the perfect length that we need for the whole thing. And it might be hard to see, but there is a gap underneath here, which is natural on both sides. And so we will want to make sure we cut this perfect. So you're gonna go ahead and measure whatever that was. Put it at the top. And go ahead and make a mark on the top of it, just like that. Then you're going to use a speed square to go ahead and kind of mark the rest of it. So when we do cut it, it is a perfectly straight line. And you can take it right here and go ahead and keep marking it. And I will say there is one end that has a little bit of extra on the end, and the other one is flush. You want to make sure you're measuring from this way to the end that has a little bit extra on it. So the next thing I'm going to use is a Sawzall, and with this Sawzall, it does have a wood and a steel blade, so it's kind of like a bi-metal or bi-blade. So we're going to go ahead and cut this as straight as possible. Go slow, take your time. Make sure you start right so you can finish right. So when you're doing it, you want to make sure it is sitting right here on this. This will move back and forth, but as you do it, it will catch and do exactly what it should do. And you're gonna make sure you're tight down. And as soon as you start, go ahead and put your hand off to the side. Do be careful, wear safety glasses. And that piece will come off just like that. So you're gonna go ahead and start making sure this thing fits, and sometimes you do have different chunks and scraps you do need to kind of get out of the way. And so the goal of this, sometimes you do have to take the back of a screwdriver as well, and you can just kind of tap this in to place as well. So the goal of this, I'm gonna have to trim it up just a little bit because we're a little too long. But the goal is that this piece would be in line right here with this. And so we'll need to do a little bit more trimming to make that happen. There's a couple different ways you can trim the metal piece, which is what I'm not gonna do. I'm actually gonna trim out with that multi-tool inside of here. So that's what we're gonna do next. You can see right here and right here are our choke points. So we do need to get that about another inch. So we're gonna go ahead and cut that off right there and right here, just to the width of what this door jamb is. So we're just gonna take a chunk off. So again, you're gonna take that multi-tool and you're just gonna kind of almost put it right up next to it. And you're not going super far in. You're only taking that little chunk out that we need. So that little chunk right there, same thing with this. And then this will be able to come forward just like it needs to be able to do. Oh, I do have to take just a touch more off this side. And then that comes perfect to where this is lined up, and then that adjustable seal can go up and down this piece right here. And that will allow this door to do exactly what it needs to do, which it was what it was not allowing it to do earlier. So this goes up and down with those screws. So the next thing we're going to need to do is go ahead and add 3 screws that go through here, then in down into the concrete. I like to use these masonry bit and plastic combo anchor kits. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of just randomly make a mark all the way through the piece of wood, then just let it hit the concrete. And that is exactly where we will need to be. So you're going down through the wood and just making a mark on the concrete. We're gonna use 3 of these. Okay, we can go ahead and push this back out. And then you can see the 3 different marks. Now what you're gonna go ahead and do is get how long your anchor is, and this is why we got that little piece of blue tape. You only need 1 inch or 2 of it. You're going to mark this and then add just a little bit extra. This will give you the depth that you need. And then we're gonna go ahead, same holes, hammer drill on. And you go down to the depth of that blue. And you can go and wipe your dust away. And you go ahead and put your anchors in. Sometimes you'll need a hammer. A lot of times you can just use the back side of the screwdriver to knock those in. And so this is just giving us that extra bit of stability that we will need when putting this in. And then this time we're going to go ahead and sweep just to make sure it's all good, because we're about to put caulk down. So this is used caulk. You can go ahead and take the tape off. That's how I like to do it, and that keeps it nice and fresh. Release the tube. And one trick I've learned with caulking, make a really small hole in it. Don't cut it really, really big, because it's a pain in the butt to try to get it to come out right. And then you go ahead and go all the way out, all the way back in. Then you're lock loaded, ready to go. We are going to put a fair amount of caulk down because we do want this to be sealed properly. So there's no like real big rhyme or reason. Make sure you have quite a bit down, because this is going to just help give you that extra bit of seal. Again, this garage is notorious for having leaks, and so that's why we're redoing this, because it did not work properly. We will also hit up all the different areas that need to be caulked afterwards. And so again, this doesn't have to look super pretty. Release the caulk so it doesn't keep coming out. Then at this point, we're going to go ahead. You're going to want to pick this up as you're doing it, so you can stay out of the caulk the best you can, which is going to be kind of a difficulty, but you can definitely do it. Then remember, you're bringing it all the way up to that front. And you also will be looking for the little blue holes next. So I did mess up on one step. We do have to remove this, which is what I didn't want to have to do, but we'll just add some extra caulk down. I did forget to do one really important thing, and that is to add these to the bottom right here. And you will need a hammer to knock these in. So you go ahead and get them kind of lined up where you need them to be, because we did take some off. That right there is what you need to do. And then we will go ahead and get that hammer. And you're just setting these. You don't have to like kill it. You're just setting them in. I kind of wish it came preset, but that's not how that goes. We'll add just a little bit more caulk just to make sure we get exactly what we need. It's okay to mess up. You can always go back and redo almost all your different things if you do have errors along the way. If you like Bob Ross, you understand that completely. One of my heroes, right? So you're going to want to make sure, again, that is perfectly lined up. And I also like to go ahead and test the door really quickly while we're at it. You can wipe any of that excess caulk off as well, because I did kind of make a mess. So we'll go ahead and shut the door real quick to make sure it shuts properly and it's right where it needs to be. And that looks pretty good. Maybe back just a touch there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open back up the door, and we're going to go find those anchors that we made with putting screws down in them. And the beauty of doing it through the wood instead of just into the concrete is this does help allow you to get exactly where you want it to be. And you just tighten those down. You don't have to overkill it, but this does just help kind of keep it in place. Just that extra little bit. I do like to make sure it's secure. I'm a big guy. I don't want stepping on one of these and feeling like you're falling. That's no fun at all for anyone. So all you're doing is just tighten those down. Again, you don't have to overkill it, but just a good tightening is all you need on that. So the next part is you're going to go ahead and take this. You go ahead and put your washer flush here, and you begin screwing this in. You're going to do this for all three of them. This is how it helps it become adjustable as you're going down, is it just kind of becomes a little tight, and it just kind of helps you be able to do it. So you're going to go ahead and spin those on there just like that. You're going to go ahead and do that to all three of them. Face down. It's kind of hard to tell, but they are face down towards the ground. I hope that one had two of them, because they do give you four. Careful, because those things are super thin. You do want to make sure you just have one on each. So you're going to go ahead and take it. You want to make sure your screws are exactly where they need to be. And then you can go ahead and kind of set it down very nice and gently. And you're going to go ahead and take your Phillips screws and tighten them down. I do like that these are Phillips screws instead of the other. It will really kind of help in the future if you ever have to lift this up or down. Make sure it does what it needs to do. The flatheads do, like you kind of saw, do get messed up. So we're going to go ahead and test and shut the door once I get this down a little bit tighter on this one, and see on the back side if you see any light coming through. Because that was one of our issues. Like there was like you could put your whole hand underneath it. And so part of the goal of this project is to make that not happen this time. And so if you do need to raise it up a little bit, you can go ahead and unscrew it a little bit. And that will allow it with that washer to hopefully be able to kind of come up a little bit and be able to fill that gap, which is, again, one of the reasons we're doing this, and it was just so rotten. So you can try it again and see if you see any gap. It should get closer each and every time here. Okay, go ahead and open it. And so again, if you still need a little bit more, you have that ability to kind of put this up, and it will give you that, just that little bit of extra behind it. Go ahead and shut it again and test it one last time. Getting a lot closer. And so if the washers do fall, sometimes you will have to kind of pick it up and then go ahead and tighten it back down, and then the washer will work properly. Not the best washer system I've seen, but yeah, and you're gonna go ahead and shut it. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and caulk right down here along the edge. You wanna make sure your sill plate is nice and clean so we can get a good caulk right there. So go ahead and get your caulk. You do want it kind of angled. That's how I like to do it. And then you start tightening it down. Make sure you have paper towels nearby. And then you're gonna just go ahead and hit it with caulk. You don't have to put a ton of caulk because caulk does like to move, but you do want enough on there. And then we'll show you how to use your finger to be able to get it off and smoothing it out nice and neat. Same thing with over here. If you do have a jam that's really, really bad, you can replace it. That's not necessarily the worst thing to do, because those do get rotten over time, especially if you see a lot of wood rot. Go ahead and lick your finger. I know it's not super COVID safe, so hopefully just you are working on the project or somebody in your immediate household. And then over here, you're gonna do the same thing, and you're just pretty much just getting the access caulk and making sure everything is nice. So if the water does come, you do have the water just coming and running down this way instead of back and through like it was doing. If this was helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments, please let me know as well.